Hi, everybody. We're joined today by Stephen, a U.S. Army vet, husband, and father of two with a remarkable story of grit and determination. Stephen, thank you for being here today.
Hey, thank you so much, Daniel. It's an absolute pleasure to get a chance to speak with you and to share my story. And it goes without saying that your story itself is very remarkable. And I'm so thankful that you've found an outlet to not only share that story, but also highlight other people that are going through similar challenges and just building this persona of just resilience and just encouraging people to find a way to overcome their challenges. I love that.
Thank you, Stephen. Just want to call out too. It's actually you had shared a post on a Facebook group. I believe the photo was taken by your wife, and it was actually my wife Denise, who you met last time. She shared it with me and reached out to you. So I just want to take a minute and thank our wives for their part in having us be here together today.
No, yeah, it is. Actually, that photo was actually captured. I think somebody who was staffed on the half Ironman that day, one of the photographers. And it's funny because that photo, typically my photos when I get out of the water are my least favorite photos because I don't look too great, and a lot of that has to do with my disease. But also, it's just you're not getting the environment and everything around you. It's not the most glamorous photo. Coming out of the water, but that photo definitely held extra significance for me, and I was nervous to share, but I'm glad that I did.
Well, you're an inspiration, and it's the photo alone speaks volumes. So I just kind of want to quickly just say you're more than an Ironman. You have a full-time job. You're from what I understand, a new ambassador for MS. It's the Mission Stadiums for Multiple Sclerosis. You're a personal trainer, a group fitness instructor, certified life coach. Where do you find the time to manage all of these things while maintaining a healthy work-life balance, training, family commitments, and on top of that, having MS? Like, how do you manage?
An excellent question, and I wish I had I had this riddle solved, because honestly I don't. I'm juggling so many different balls at this point. It's a lot of it is still trying to figure out how do I effectively prioritize what needs to be at the top of my to-do list. And honestly, just over the past couple of weeks and months, a lot of things have come to light in my life that have shown me that it's time to reprioritize some things. I've put a lot of emphasis into, of course, my physical training and my fitness and everything. But I'll be honest, sometimes it's one of the dangers of trying to do too much, and that I've let things falter to the side that maybe need a little bit more emphasis in my life, like my family, like my faith, like just taking that quality time to just slow down sometimes. But I think the hunger and drive that I have to make a difference in the lives of others is really what got me into this position where I have so many different hats, so many different roles. And that is one thing I don't think I'll ever be able to change about myself, and being relentless in that way and wanting to make that difference. So as I continue to strive forward, it's just, I feel like for me, it's about having a more heightened sense of awareness and focus on what it is exactly I want to do and how I'm going to make that difference. So I'm just going to take it a day at a time, because if I try to overthink things and try to think about all the things I want to do, whether it's be a personal trainer, be a group fitness instructor, if it's doing life coaching, and of course I have like you said, my full-time role where I work full-time remotely. And don't get me wrong, I'm super thankful for all of those things. But when it boils down to it, I also have to be super mindful and pay attention to what really matters. And at the end of the day, it's putting those things at the top.
Absolutely. So I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about the MS for MS. It's the Mission Stadiums for Multiple Sclerosis. Could you share a little bit about what they do in their mission?
Yeah, sure. So it's amazing how I actually ended up getting involved with MS for MS, because honestly, up until about 2 months ago, I'd never heard of the charity, which is a shocking surprise to me because I consider myself very informed when it comes to all things multiple sclerosis. So it was pretty surprising to me. I was recently invited to essentially audition for a role with Les Mills, which is a global group fitness and a group fitness organization based out of New Zealand. And they're relatively popular through a lot of fitness facilities throughout the United States. They offer different classes, some of them being like body pump, which is one of the classes I'm certified in. And I got the opportunity to basically audition to become more involved and integrated as a role with a trainer with Les Mills, which I was super excited about. And so I actually got accepted. I made it through the audition process. I'm now currently onboarding as a trainer for Les Mills for body pump. And I was assigned a specific coach. And my coach, her name is Carrie Ball, and she's just an amazing person and just an incredible instructor for Les Mills as well. But we've had some one-on-one sessions, and I shared my story with her. And I come to find out that her brother is actually, his name's Sam Greenberg. He's actually the founder of this MS for MS Charities. And I learned that the Carrie and Sam's, I believe it was their grandmother, actually had multiple sclerosis and ended up passing away because of it. And so Sam was really has a philanthropic viewpoint on life and wanted to find a way to give back. So he decided to start this charity. So when I started telling Carrie about my story with MS, she's like, wow. She's like, everything happens for a reason, And so she's like, I got to get you connected with my brother. So I got connected with Sam, and it didn't take me long to realize that it was like a perfect fit. I'm super passionate about sports. I hope I don't deter any viewership on this video or this podcast format, but I'm a diehard Philadelphia fan when it comes to the all Philly sports, Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, you name it. I'm diehard. I bleed those colors. And so getting the chance to integrate my passion for sports, for fitness with MS and finding a way to give back is that's an incredible thing to be a part of. And I'm really excited for it.
Amazing. Curious, the MS part, it's definitely not who you are. And right now, just being on the other side of the camera, people would never assume there's anything wrong with you. What you've managed to accomplish is nothing short of incredible. But getting down to the I guess the baseline here, how has MS impacted your life? And I guess the one question I'd like to ask as a follow-up would be, what have you learned as a result of your diagnosis, and how has that changed you?
You're going to make my brain work really hard this morning. Some pretty deep questions. But to your first point about, looking on the other side of the camera and seeing me, it's actually one of the biggest struggles that I have with my MS diagnosis sometimes, is that there's so many people who now see my story. They see this big, strong guy, this guy who's up on stage teaching these classes, this guy who's crossing the finish line of multiple Ironman races, just looking so strong and so powerful. And what they don't see, or I'll start with what they didn't see. What they didn't see is where I started. And that was basically being bedridden, wetting the bed every night, not being able to see, losing my vision, and being told by doctors it was likely that I would probably never walk again. That's what they didn't see. And there's just some dark moments for me. I remember I had just taken a job out in California, and in a matter of just like 6 months, ended up not being able to have that job, ended up trying to move back to where my family's from on the East Coast in the United States, in Pennsylvania. And my wife and my daughter and just my newborn son, he was only a week old when I was diagnosed with MS, they ended up flying back to the East Coast without me because I had to wrap up some things with work. And at that point in time, it was a very volatile ride. Sometimes I could walk, sometimes I couldn't. And I just had to do a few more things to wrap up my move and get on an airplane myself. And one of those was turning in the key to the community center that I lived in. And I remember it was only like a 3-block walk. I was like, oh, we got this, no problem. And perhaps it was my stubbornness or my ignorance, but I made it all the way down there, and my gait was significantly deteriorating step by step as I continued to walk. Made it all the way there. And I remember just looking back at my house, and I wasn't sure if I could make it. And I ended up getting about, I'd say, 100 yards away, and I just couldn't walk anymore. I was just laying on the pavement, and I ended up just crawling, just using my forearms to get me the rest of the way to my house, and made it inside and just started bawling my eyes out. Be very just, vulnerable and transparent. It was very difficult to go from being a U.S. military veteran who went to Iraq and Afghanistan and was strong and healthy and was just starting out on this new career, to crawling on the pavement, barely being able to help myself. And it was not sure what the future was going to look like. The future looked very bleak, but thanks to my faith in God and my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and just taking it day by day, having an amazing wife who supported me every step of the way, and having so many amazing people come into my life and playing different roles, different support teams and systems. Thanks to the treatments that I received at different various hospitals, I slowly, day by day, started making progress. And I was determined, regardless of what the outcome was going to be, to take the reins of not the disease. I'm not going to say that, because it's not fair to say that it's possible to take control of something that's uncontrollable. There are a lot of people with multiple sclerosis that, regardless of what they do, are going to continue to deteriorate. And that's the other part of what people don't see is, yes, I'm doing all these incredible things with MS, but what people don't see is that I still struggle in many ways. Like my feet right now, as I'm talking to you, all pins and needles. Every day I wake up, and it doesn't matter how much sleep I get, I'm completely exhausted. I'm always fatigued. And my bladder and bowel control, that's a game that I play every day. I always need to make sure that there's a bathroom facility with very close to me, because otherwise I'm at risk of having an accident. And it sounds silly as like a 32-year-old man to say something like that, but those are the realities I live with. And MS is just, it's sort of like this, feels like this lurking monster that's just, you're trying to tame and keep away, keep tethered down. And whether or not that will be the outcome 5 to 10 years from now, I can't say that. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm going to turn this around to you and to all the listeners and people watching. Nobody can say that. Nobody can make that determination of what the next 5 to 10 years is going to look like. Shoot, we don't even know what today and tomorrow is going to look like. Anything can happen at any point in time. I tell people all the time. The rug can be pulled out from underneath you, whether it's MS diagnosis, a brain tumor, cancer diagnosis, whether it's a car accident or some unforeseen tragedy. At any point in time, in any moment in our lives, we can face those unforeseen challenges. And it's how we deal with that and how we rise up to that challenge that determines our character, determines what kind of person we're going to be and the impact we can make on the world. Because it's always those underdog stories that people really latch onto and get excited about. Yeah, it's really cool to see perhaps maybe it's a star athlete compete at a championship level and repeating as a championship year after year after year. That can be inspiring. That's really cool, but that's not something realistic that a lot of people can attain and grasp onto. Like, I'm never going to be a Michael Jordan. I'm never going to be a Tom Brady. I'm never going to be these incredible people that they deserve all the credit for doing incredible things, but I'm never going to be those people. What I can do with my story, though, and what any of us can do with our story of grits and of overcoming challenges, is we can inspire the next person in line. We can inspire your neighbor, somebody in your community, whoever it is. You can inspire them to become a better version of themselves. And that's what motivates me to continue going on. So apologize for monologuing here.
No. I appreciate it. That was
Yeah.
a fantastic response. Do you think your work as a life coach has helped you better reflect upon your own life, not only as a teacher, but as a student yourself?
So I'm so glad you asked this question, because the funny thing is I've actually have not done any official one-on-one life coaching with anybody yet. I'm certified as a life coach through the Certified High Performance Coaching with Brendan Bouchard. Not sure if you're familiar with him, but I decided, it was maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, that at that point in time, my employment status was very foggy. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I tried applying to all these different jobs, and I can't hold down a job where I'm expected to be at a certain place from A to Z time span, whether it's standing or, sort of in the parameters of a very regimented schedule. So I was applying to all these different jobs, and my disease was basically the main factor that was withholding me from attaining employment. So right about at the point of time where I was looking to give up, I got connected with the Veterans Affairs in the United States, and so happy that I did. They have a program for veterans. It's basically a vocational rehabilitation program. And so we went through all my different skill sets, all the things I could and couldn't do, and kind of landed on the idea of, well, I could perhaps make money actually coaching other people through their life challenges. And I was like, oh man, that's exactly like fits in line with what I want to do. So I ended up going through the certification process with Brendan Bouchard and got certified. But right about that point in time, not only did I relapse with my MS, but I actually ended up also receiving a job offer with the company that I work for today, Raptor Maps. So thankful for them. Shout outs to Nikhil Vadekar and Eddie Arbrapta, the founders of Raptor Maps, for taking me on. That's also a crazy story that I'll just kind of elaborate on just for a little bit here.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I was basically at the point where financially my family was kind of getting in trouble. Like we had my disability through the VA, but I was just at the point where like, I don't know how I'm going to provide for my family anymore. Like I just can't work. And I had interviewed for Raptor Maps a couple of months prior to when this all started happening, and basically went through the interview process. And they basically said, we love you. We think you're a great person, but not maybe a great fit for the role that we're looking to fill right now. So honestly, I took that as a thanks, but no thanks sort of response, and didn't expect to ever hear anything back. And it wasn't until I had scheduled an appointment with a disability attorney to start talking about receiving disability benefits. The same day I was supposed to speak to that attorney was the day that the CEO of Raptor Maps reached out to me on LinkedIn and told me to check my email. And essentially it was a job offer. Just came out of the blue. So it's one of those like God moments for me that, I can't help but see the incredible blessing and just his working in my life to take care of me as he always has. And I am sort of diverted course then, getting back to like this whole life coaching certification. I diverted course from pursuing that as a full-time endeavor to doing what I do now with Raptor Maps, doing that full-time. That isn't to say though, like life coaching is still, we talked about in the very beginning about reprioritizing, assessing all the places I want to go. Life coaching is still in, I would say, the bullseye area of my target of that's where I'm orienting myself. Like that's the direction I want to go, because just like you're doing with this incredible movement, More Than Our Story, I know that my story can make a difference for other people. And even if it's just something that I do part-time or even pro bono, if I can just help one person, that's going to make a huge difference. And so those skills, the skill sets that I learned through certification, have helped me tremendously to maintain that attitude of resilience, to live by that motto that I tell everybody on almost a daily basis, to embrace the day. And I am very excited about the proposition of one day being able to, perhaps maybe even full-time one day, being able to be a life coach and help the next person.
I guess this is a great question for you. What are you hoping people take away from your story today?
Yeah, that is a great question. And the biggest, man, there's so many different elements of this that I could expound upon. But the biggest thing for me is, it's something that I've gotten insights on, honestly, in just the past couple of weeks, is raw and honest communication. And it's one thing to go about a challenge like dealing with MS and putting on your game face, trying to assert this position of, oh, I'm crushing this, I'm rocking this, everything's fine, when perhaps underneath the surface, maybe everything's not fine. And I'm happy to share and talk about mental health issues as well. It's one of the big sort of nasty side effects of living with a chronic disease, is that it is difficult on your mental health. It is difficult to wake up every day realizing that this, let's call it this little monster that's lurking inside, is just not going away. It's just there every day. And so I try to do a little, perhaps it's like identity reevaluation, where instead of a little monster, I see MS as perhaps just maybe a coach, not necessarily something that's trying to destroy me or defeat me, but it's a coach that's trying to teach me things. And there's a lot of things that I'm learning from MS: patience, learning how to be patient; humility, learning how to ask for help; learning how to be okay with not being the best at everything. Like I'm never going to win an Ironman. I'm never going to be the best racer on the circuit. Those are things that I just have to concede to. Perhaps without MS, who knows? Maybe I could get there. But MS is teaching me so many things, and it's teaching me to just be focused on the present, be focused on what I can do as opposed to what I can't. And I think ultimately that is the biggest thing I would have people strive to recognize in their own lives, is that attitude of gratitude. Just being thankful for the present moment, being thankful for the people in your life, being thankful for the opportunities you have in today. Just whether you're going through challenges, whether you're going through highs and lows, all those things, that's just life. We're going to go through the riptide of the ups and the downs, but trying to find that center of balance to just stay in the moment and just look at what the bad things are trying to teach you, and being thankful for what the good things are blessing you with.
I love that attitude of gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so cliche, but it's
But hey,
paramount. I mean,
absolutely.
there's a reason why it gets thrown around so much. It's those simple things that are sometimes the most difficult things to actually apply.
So you mentioned that you had various treatments at various hospitals. Um, would you say how successful would you say those have been? And maybe you want to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure thing. So during I would say like my first like severe episode with MS, I'm so thankful for steroid treatment with MS, the corticosteroids. Like without that, I honestly don't know where I'd be today. I ended up starting with, because just it never fails, without fail. Anytime that I relapse or get sick, it's always on a weekend, which hospital staffing is never great on weekends. So the first time I ever went through it, I had actually got prescribed the pill form of the corticosteroids, and they gave me an absurd amount of pills to ingest in just about 48 hours. It was like over 120 of these pills, and it reduced the inflammation right away. But I ended up getting, it was a really weird side effect. It was chronic hiccups, which doesn't sound that, it doesn't sound that terrifying, but imagine having hiccups for about 36 hours straight, and hiccups to the point where you're starting to like hiccup stomach acid. And so you're terrified every like 5 seconds because pain is coming, and you can't sleep. You can't sleep with these hiccups. So thankfully, I've never had to take the pill form of those corticosteroids ever again. I'm not sure what it was about them, but that was my side effect. So every time I've relapsed, except for I've had what they called like these pseudo relapses, but every time I've had like a real relapse, getting on corticosteroids right away intravenously, it's almost like instant relief. Like anytime I would lose my vision or not be able to walk, there was at one point in time, because my family was moving so much, we moved to California, to Baltimore, to Pennsylvania, and a different place in Pennsylvania. I'd have to go to these new hospitals and tell my story over and over again about all like my treatment history. And there's at one point in Pennsylvania where I got to the emergency room and I kept almost like banging the table. Literally, I was like, all you need to do is give me these corticosteroids, and I promise you things will get better. And it wasn't until they finally listened to me and gave me the steroids that they became believers themselves. I went from convulsing and shaking and not being able to see anything to I stopped shaking, I could see, and I got out of bed and started walking almost instantly. It was like that quick. And so I've also been on, they call it rituximab. It's sort of like the off band of Ocrevus. It's basically an immunotherapy that eliminates half of the white blood cells in your body, the T white blood cells, which a lot of researchers believe are the aggressors when it comes to MS, multiple sclerosis, in which the the white blood cells basically attack the myelin sheath, the little covering that goes over the nervous fibers in your bodies, and they eliminate all of those white blood cells in the hopes that it prolongs any deterioration of the disease course. And I was on that for about the first 3.5 years of my disease course. But the thing that really frustrated me is every time I would get a new infusion done, without fail, within the next like 2 to 3 weeks, I would get a really, really bad virus of some sort, really, really sick. And because I had a compromised immune system, that illness would last for like a month or 2 months. And I don't do well being sick and being in a state where I just can't, even if I'm like with MS, if I can't move my legs, that's fine. I can still move my upper body, find a way to move. If I'm sick and bedridden because my body is not healthy, I can't exercise. And so it's sort of like this vicious cycle that I get into. So I actually, over the past year or so, I've gotten off of my treatment, like completely. And at this point, I'm relying on my faith, my nutrition, my diet, and fitness to carry me through. Perhaps that's foolish, but it's what's working for me. And that's what I always advise people with not only MS, but with whatever ailment or challenge you're going through in life. Like, what works for me may not work for you. I'll tell you what I'm doing, but I want people to do what's going to work for them.
Well, it's definitely sounds like it's working. To shift gears a little bit, you've managed to overcome your prognosis and complete 3 full Ironmans to date, which is remarkable, absolutely remarkable. But I'm just curious, how important, I know you have a very specific diet that we were talking about. How important is nutrition to maintaining your physical and mental output?
Oh yeah, I mean, nutrition is paramount. It's become such a huge factor in my life, and I've been doing it for so long that it kind of actually just runs in the background. It's almost like an autonomous function where I don't really have to think about what I'm going to consume during the day. My diet is gluten-free, it's vegan, it's soy-free, it's sugar-free, it's caffeine-free. And I also follow a diet that's low FODMAP. FODMAP, I'd have to Google what the term stands for right now because it's a long scientific term. But it's essentially reducing the consumption of foods that cause inflammation in the body. So if a food is designated being its high FODMAP, that means all it really means is saying it takes longer to digest within the digestive tract in your body. And when you're eating high FODMAP foods, basically your body's spooling up inflammation to break down all those enzymes. And the longer that process takes, the more inflammation your body creates. And I think also because of all of the treatments that I've had done, especially after the first rituximab one, which is sort of like a chemotherapy drug, ever since that first treatment, my digestive system has been completely wrecked. Like my stomach is so sensitive to so many foods. So it's very bland, but it works for me.
So staying on the Ironman thread here, you mentioned maybe Florida was on your roadmap. Is that still?
Yes. Yeah. So I've gone through an interesting progression of Ironman events this year. Last year, in 2022, towards the end of the year, maybe perhaps in like October, November, I actually signed up for Ironman Alaska, which was supposed to take place in early July. Towards the beginning of 2023, Ironman let all the participants know that Ironman Alaska, it was only going to be the second time they've done the race, has actually been canceled indefinitely due to just community concerns. So that race, they ended up letting me defer to a different race, which would be Ironman Florida, and also gave me a free half Ironman to do, which is the Ironman Happy Valley, Pennsylvania, where that photo came from. So right around the time that I was getting spooled up to do the Happy Valley Ironman, which was just it's already been like a month and a half ago, maybe longer, I learned that I was actually invited to the World Championship race in Nice, France, that's ultimately my end game with all these Ironman races, is to one day get to the World Championship race. And unfortunately, just due to a lot of unforeseen circumstances, just a lot of different challenges, not only personally, but financially. My family and I, we weren't able to make that full investment to take that trip all the way to France, because that race is going to be happening in just a couple weeks. So unfortunately, I'm deferring that race, and I'm not sure. The cool thing that Ironman does is every year they invite 5 physical athletes in the PC division, or the physically challenged division, which is what I race underneath with my MS. Every year they invite 5 of these athletes who have finished a race in the previous calendar year to the World Championship race. So I'm hopeful next year the race is going to be in Hawaii. That's sort of my dream, is to get to Kona and to race there. So, well, fingers are crossed. We'll see what happens, because my wife is going to be really excited too, because I've always told her, once I get to Hawaii, I'll finally stop doing these Ironman races, because it's tough, it's hard, it's obviously it's difficult. It's not something that a lot of people endeavor or strive to do, and to do one is a formidable feat. But especially with MS, like I've considered getting perhaps like an Ironman coach, like a triathlon coach, to help me. But because my disease and the way that it flows from ebbs and flows from day to day, I can't follow a regular schedule. Like my schedule is as far as training is concerned, it's not ideal. Honestly, what I do is I try to find days that I feel really good, and hopefully it's some time that I actually have off, which is another big struggle I have because I'm so busy. It's hard to find all that time for training. But if I'm feeling good on a day that I have time, I make the most of that day, embrace the day. So I'll even go to the lengths where I'll do a half Ironman just by myself, because I don't have time to slowly stagger and increase my training. Like I just need to basically, it's like shock my system, like get myself used to what it's going to feel like on race day, because that's what it is on race day. It's a shock my system kind of day, where I'll be honest, I show up on the race line and I know that training wise, I'm never adequately prepared. And I try not to beat myself up for that, because I know that without this disease that I would have more control and power over that. But it's something about getting to the starting line, and I don't know, my mindset shifts. It's almost like going to war. It's like, I don't care what's going to happen today, I'm going to find a way through. And I'm like an adrenaline junkie for that feeling. It's so hard to replicate that. It's the same feeling I would get when I would get on the airplane to go to a deployment to like Iraq or Afghanistan. You like shift your mindset. It's like, no matter what happens, it's go time. And it's one of the beautiful things about the Ironman race itself, is it's almost like a metaphor for life in some ways, especially when I look at like the spiritual aspects of it, fighting the good fight, finishing the race, regardless of the struggles and the setbacks, because in every single race, there's a lot of them. The swim is difficult. The bike is difficult. The environment, the run's the most difficult part for me, but it's all about not stopping. As long as I keep moving, I'm confident that I'll at least have a chance to see that finish line.
Absolutely. If you had to choose one thing in your life to say your greatest accomplishment, what would that be?
Whew. I mean, looking back at everything that I've done thus far, I mean, that's such a tough question, especially right now, Daniel. I'll be honest about that, because you asked me a couple months ago, and I would say, yeah, one of my Ironman races. Like I was really, really proud of Ironman Wisconsin, because that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like that day, it was raining all day. They ended up getting about like 4 inches of rain, and the temperature was only about like in the mid to low 50s. And I remember even just getting to the race, there was a good portion of the race registrants that didn't even show up to the race because the weather conditions were so bad. And the swim was actually the easiest part of the day. I usually struggle a lot with the swim, but the swim felt like getting into a warm bath. It was just like, oh, this is nice and warm. It was once I got out of the water and onto my bike. I have Raynaud syndrome in my fingertips, so I don't get good circulation. And so my fingertips were exposed during the bike ride. So they got to the point where not only were they turned blue, but they started turning this weird, like grayish color. And basically like the first signs of like frostbite. And I remember just riding my bike and seeing bicycle after bicycle just left on the side of the course. And I thought that there were like a lot of accidents because it was raining pretty hard. And I learned later that those weren't accidents; those were people just giving up. And there were a lot of even professional athletes that ended up just saying, "Nope, not doing this, not today." And it was the slowest bike ride I've ever had. And usually in transition, when you go transition from like the bike to a run, you want that to be a fast process. You don't want to waste time. But I was on my bike for about 7.5 hours out in that 20-mile-per-hour wind, nonstop rain, about 50 degrees. And I got to the point where I was like borderline hypothermic. And after the adrenaline wore off of getting off of my bike, I got to the transition area. My whole body just started convulsing. And I couldn't even like move my fingers to untie my shoes. So amazing. So thankful for the staff that was there. They wrapped like these heated blankets around me and got my body back to where it was nice and warm and I could actually move again. But it took about almost an hour in transition to actually get to the point where I could move again. And because of that, it left me with basically the bare minimum amount of time that I could possibly get the run done. Like they made an announcement. They said, "Hey, you've got to get on the run course in the next 10 minutes or you're disqualified." And at that point I was like, man, I don't know if I'm ready, but I'm going to do this anyways. And usually with like an Ironman run, it's a full marathon. I know that in previous races, like I usually try to go fast enough on the bike that I have time to maybe take a break or walk if I need to. With this race, I just kept looking at my watch and I was like, there's absolutely there's no margin for error here. I have to keep moving. And there are multiple points in time, like even on the bike ride, especially where I got so cold, even after the first 15 miles, like I was at almost one of those bikes on the side of the road. They have these aid stations where there's drinks and there's food. There's also porta johns, like porta potties. And the only solace reprieve I could get from the cold and the rain was basically hiding inside of a porta john. And I remember just getting in there and just crying, just not knowing. I didn't feel like at that moment that I had enough strength or resilience to get through. I remember just praying to God, just asking him to give me that strength. And I just made a deal with myself. One more mile, one more mile. I'll just go to the next mile and see how I feel. And that's how I got through every single mile. And when it came to the run, I got to the halfway point where they have like your final aid station essentially where you have your special needs bags. And my wife was there and she came at just the right point in time. And I remember looking at her and I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to make it. And she's my biggest cheerleader. She believed in me and she was there waiting for me at the finish line. And I made the cut. I made the cutoff before disqualification by like 15 minutes. Like that's all the time that I had left. But it was my slowest race. I almost basically finished in last place, but it's the race I'm the most proud of because it got me so close to God in my faith and my reliance on him. And it also just proved to me that I can overcome great things. I can overcome great challenges, and it motivates me to want to share that with other people. But when it comes to that's my greatest race. But when it comes to my greatest accomplishment, I feel like that story is still being written. I have a lot of things that as I'm learning and growing, being a father of 2 children and being a husband, I have a lot of things that I'm learning that I've kind of put to the wayside when I need to prioritize. And I want my greatest accomplishment to be the legacy I leave for my children, the relationship that I build with my wife, and ultimately the relationship that I have with God. Like if that could be my greatest accomplishment, I don't really care so much about the medals and the races and that stuff's it's all fine and dandy. Like those are things that motivate me and inspire me and keep me moving. But when it comes down to the end of the day, that's not necessarily what matters that much. And I want to focus on what matters.
Well, you definitely matter to a lot of people, your family first and foremost. Your story is pure, as I said earlier, pure grit and determination. It's been fantastic hearing it. So I just want to say before we wrap up, thank you so much for having the courage and determination and just the bravery to share your story, because there's a lot of people out there who need to hear this, need to get inspired through hearing these stories. So just thank you very much.
I mean, I'm the one who should be thanking you, Daniel. I mean, just your story and how much you've been able to overcome, and your willingness to use that as a platform to share other people's stories. I mean, you could go on all day on what different podcasts and radio shows and TV shows and share your story. It's incredible. But the fact that you're willing to give a platform for other people to share their stories, all in the effort of helping just the multitudes overcome their challenges, because like we've talked about, everybody has their challenges. That's inspiring to me, and I appreciate and love you for that.
Thank you. Love you too.
Awesome.
All right, Stephen. Well, thank you. I look forward to hearing more, and have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you so much to all your listeners.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
All right. See ya.
Bye.